Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Embracing Life in Issaquah. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, as always, Rebecca Kuno-Scott. Hello, Rebecca. Hi. Hi. Hey, it's springtime. It feels so good. The sunshine, the fresh air.
Definitely.
Yes. And with springtime comes lots of family activities. We come out of hibernation and we start, doing life outdoors. And I think that creates busy families. So I know you have some great things to share today about all that busyness.
Yes. So a little bit of background. I have been working with a nutritionist for about the past year. Mm-hmm. And I still have lots to learn around food and food preparation to encompass overall health. And so this really has come to the forefront of my mind just this past week. We've had a big transition in my daughter's schedule for sports. And I know from talking to other parents, I'm not the only family that's dealing with this. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, my daughter now has a sports schedule that is, she has practice Monday through Thursday every week. Wow. Right during dinner time, mm-hmm. right? Yep. And there's even one night where she has back-to-back practices. And so she's not even on that night. She's not even home until 9 o'clock. So it's been percolating, and I've been working over the past year on improving my meal planning skills, if you will.
Yeah. The skills, the ninja skills. Yeah, I know.
It can seem, sometimes it can seem so rigid, right? And like, oh, well, if I start planning ahead, I don't know what I want to eat on Wednesday when it's Sunday and I'm going to the grocery store. And so what I've learned, because I am a very detailed person, and so when I first started this, I was very rigid. And I'm like, okay, well, this night's going to be this meal, and this night's going to be this meal, and this, and then I'd get to that night, and then I'd be like, I don't really want that, right? And so I'd struggle with it. So what I've learned from my nutritionist is create a plan for the week and allow for fluidity. So you know what you're having that week, and then if you want to switch meals around within the week of what you've already planned for, go for it, right?
Got it. Yeah.
So it takes practice, and I have gotten so much better at it, and it is amazing how much time it saves. And so, for example, prior to us sitting down, when I planned for the week on Sunday evening, I usually try to not do it on Sundays, but that's what worked for me this week, and that's fine. But the thing I found is pick a day, one day of the week that's consistent to meal plan, and just block out 30 minutes. It's really about all it takes. And think through what you already have in your pantry so that you can kind of pull things together from that. Right. And so today, right before you and I sat down, I decided I was going to make, I'm trying an Instapot version of sesame chicken. So actually last night I pulled the chicken out of my freezer because I actually had the chicken in my freezer for a couple of weeks now. And so I didn't want it to get freezer burned. And so I was like, oh, I've got chicken. What am I going to do with it? And here's an example of where I originally planned for Instapot barbecue chicken. Mm-hmm. And then as I was looking through my refrigerator and organizing it, I realized that I had like a couple half of bottles of like some teriyaki sauce and some sesame ginger sauce. And I was like, I don't want to open up a brand new bottle of barbecue sauce. I want to use up these that are just kind of sitting here. Yeah. And so I switched gears, and now instead of having barbecue chicken, we're going to have sesame chicken, and I'm using stuff that I already had.
Nice.
And so so dinner's going to be done and ready. I can come back to it later tonight. I make enough that it makes a little bit of leftovers, so then that provides a healthy lunch for anyone, like whether it be myself, my husband, or my daughter to take to school. And it just really helps and today is a busier day for me, right? So it was a perfect day for an Instapot meal. Right. And I just have found that taking that 30 minutes once a week alleviates so much stress later in the week of that, like, oh, what is for dinner tonight, right?
Yeah.
I already know the answer. It's already condensed down to a short list. Right. And I find that I'm using up the items in my refrigerator and my pantry much better than I used to.
I know. There's so many times where I'll go buy something and then like I just never use it and then I throw it away. I'm like, why did I even buy that? You know, like 3 lemons went bad or a whole thing of celery. It's like, what was I even doing? But I think, and I would say to the point of planning meals, like I like the idea of it, but like when I sit down to actually try to plan something, I just get like, my brain goes blank. What were some of your challenges kind of learning these skills? What did you keep bumping up against that wasn't working that you found your way around?
So I experienced the exact same thing of like just mental block. And so what I did is when I'd experienced mental block, then I would reach out to my family members and say, okay, I need you to give me a meal. Come up with one meal. Because only having to come up with one instead of anywhere from 5 to 7, because realistically, everybody's schedule, you just know that once or twice a week, you're probably eating out, right? So generally, I'm only having to come up with 5 to 6 meals because pretty typically we eat out at least once.
Yeah.
And so I've got a family of 4, including myself. So if I delegate them each one of them giving me one meal, then that leaves me only having to come up with a couple. And it also, once they give me an idea, it helps me think of like, okay, well, we're going to have this one of the nights, then what might be something that's like in a totally different flavor profile that would be good to just kind of mix it up and keep it fresh. And so the way that I got unstuck was, and I also think it teaches my girls a valuable lesson, right? Because I'm showing them the habit of meal planning now while they're young teenagers.
That's good. Yeah.
So that they're thinking about food. They're thinking about what are we filling our bodies with, right?
Yeah. That's good.
And it's not about always being healthy, right?
Sure.
All food is fuel. Some food just is higher octane than other, right? That's the other thing that I learned from my nutritionist is eat what sounds good to you and then pay attention to your body on how it makes you feel.
Right.
And then you start naturally getting drawn. So that was my big how to get unstuck. And it was a way to draw in my family to the process.
Yeah, love that. Do you guys have staples? Like, you know, you always have a bag of rice around, or you have pasta or chicken, or like, do you have certain things that you always shop for, which makes it easier to create something out of your staples?
Yes. I pretty much always have some sort of tortellini in my freezer. Because my family, there's a really easy dish. It's called tortellini alla romano. This is a perfect example of one that is not healthy, but totally delicious and a very easy, essentially 1 or 2 pan meal.
Yeah.
And I just buy a spinach and cheese tortellini, which takes about 5 minutes to once the water is boiling. While it's doing that, I brown some diced prosciutto in a pan.
Yum.
Let that brown and kind of caramelize a little bit. Then I add in a pre-made Alfredo sauce. We are fans of Three Rivers, although that brand Alfredo sauce is tricky to find. But when I can, I buy it and I freeze it. Rana also is another brand.
What is it?
Rana, R-A-N-A.
Okay.
And they actually make a really nice Alfredo sauce as well. So when I see those, and you wouldn't necessarily think but both of those are fresh sauces. They're not a jarred sauce that's vacuum sealed. So they are in the refrigerator section.
Okay.
Because they're cream based, you wouldn't necessarily think that they freeze, but they actually do. So,
Yum.
Anyway, so I typically always have a bag of tortellini, Alfredo sauce on hand in my freezer, and a bag of frozen peas. And so while the tortellini's cooking, I brown the prosciutto. I then put in the pasta sauce, the Alfredo sauce. And then once that's warmed up, I dump in the frozen peas, straight frozen, because the warmth of the Alfredo sauce will warm them up, and then they have a little bit of crunch and bite. And then once the tortellini's done, you drain it, put it in the saucepan, mix it up, tortellini alla romano. It is a huge success every single time.
Now I'm hungry. That sounds so good. I'm like, I need to go out today and I need to find that Alfredo sauce, and I need to make that tonight. That's
So yes, and we always typically have chicken. At Costco, I'll buy hamburger in bulk, and then I'll vacuum seal it into 1 pound sections.
Right. That's good.
We'll buy the, we also really like the steelhead that we can get at Costco. So we'll buy a great big huge fillet, and then we'll portion that into individual portions and vacuum seal that. Yeah. So we typically always have chicken, beef, and salmon or steelhead in our freezer at any given time.
It sounds like that's similar to us. My wife is so great at stocking. She's very good at stocking things. I'm a last minute thing. I don't know if that's a guy thing or if that's just a me thing, but I'm like last minute, like, well, what should I do? She's very good at like inventorying our pantry, our staples, and then she'll like figure out what's needed. And it sounds like you have those staples on hand too. So the meal planning piece of it feels like it's more about like, what am I going to do with all of these staples versus what do I need to go buy? It's like, we have the stuff, and it's just figuring out like, what are we going to make out of this stuff? Cause it's not, nobody wants just boiled chicken and bland rice. So it's like, what kid wants that? Right. But anyway, one more question on by the way, this is so great because we not only are we getting like thoughts on prep, but we're getting like recipes, which is fantastic. So on the organizing side of it, you ask them for what they want, then you only have to come up with like 1 or 2 extra meals. And then how do you organize it? Do you have a bunch of different colored pens? Do you use a whiteboard? Like, do you have an app on your phone? How do you actually plan?
Oh no, I'm pretty old school, and this is where kind of whatever works for you totally comes into play. I have a spiral notebook and just a pen, and typically what my process is I'll write down each day of the week. Yeah. And as I get many suggestions, I will plunk them in with specific days, just as a placeholder. Right. And it doesn't mean that meal has to be on that day, right? But by doing that, it also forces me to look at the schedule and say like, okay, what's going on this week? So for example, Thursday, I've got one daughter who has 2 different practices in 2 very different locations. Right. And then I've got another daughter who has a softball game an hour away from here, right? So none of us are going to be home between the hours of 5 and 8 o'clock, right? Right, right. So by putting things in a placeholder, it forces me to look at the calendar specifically of what's going on that week, you know? And so the whole premise of why I wanted to talk about this is because kids' spring sports are coming into full effect, right? And so there's a lot of nights where people are running out to Little League games or whatever the case may be. Right. So how do you handle that? So like for Thursday night where we're running ragged, we've already planned it that I'm packing a picnic dinner for my husband and I to eat for the daughter who's got the Little League game. And we will have a picnic dinner while she's playing. She is with her mom that night, so I don't have to worry about feeding her because her mom will take care of that. And then my other daughter, she is going to be gone, so I will have another thing that we stock, and this is another example of not a healthy option, but the girls love the crispy chicken patties at Costco. Oh, yeah. At Foster Farms. And you can buy a big, and I'm sure you can get them in a smaller portion at the grocery store too. but it comes in like a 20 pack, right?
Yeah.
So we just keep those in our freezer. And so that's going to be a night where it's going to be a crispy chicken sandwich kind of night for my other daughter, who won't even get home until 9 o'clock at night.
Is that when she'll have it? Is like when she gets home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because her sports are softball and basketball, and she can definitely play more on a full stomach with softball. Yeah. But basketball, she definitely wants to eat light. There's just way too much sprinting to have a full stomach. And basketball is her second sport of the night that night. So she'll eat when she gets home. And I will make sure that before she leaves for practice, she has a hearty snack. Before she goes to, so to tide her up.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing about like, embracing life is embracing all the busyness of life. Exactly. And you got to eat. So how do you, like, before we hit record, you're just talking about like, we don't want to hit fast food all the time. And I think sometimes, when push comes to shove, we do just revert back or whatever. I love that we're having that's healthy, but also helps kind of go with the flow of busy life come spring and summer with all these
Actually, a great quote that came to mind as you were talking about this from one of my favorite real estate classes that I've taken, which is building a life by design rather than a life by default, right?
Yeah.
And meal planning is a perfect example of that. Meal planning is creating a life by design.
Yep, totally.
Versus, oh crap, we're running, a million different directions today. Okay, default, we'll just go through a drive-through, right? Totally, and that's totally like, I love my fast food, right? I am not opposed to that. And there are times when that's totally appropriate and it tastes good and it's the right decision, right?
Yeah.
And so there's no shame in doing that. And it dawned on me when my daughter decided that she was going to do 2 sports and have practice Monday through Thursday. I was like, if I really need to sharpen my skills right now for this, because otherwise she really could have some really poor nutrition for the next 3 months. And that's counter to the goals that she has for making progress in the sports that she loves. Yeah. And more importantly, it's just not great for her health, right? And so fortunately, she just finished a health chapter at school. And so it's on her mindset too. Yeah. And so I was able to have a conversation with her because she's not great about breakfast. And so I pointed out to her, I'm like, look, we've really got to be conscientious about you having a solid breakfast with what your schedule is like, because your dinners are going to be really late at night.
Right. Yeah. I love that you're bringing, and it's not just the here and now, but it's also the lessons you're teaching kids about how it looks when they're adults, like when they're growing up. I think that's really even more important. I think, people who are attracted to the conversation of embracing life and how do we really embrace life have hardwired into them, like a desire for their kids to have, healthy patterns as they get older too. So it's so great. I love this. I know that you're a busy real estate agent as well. And I would imagine that somehow as you're out showing properties or listing homes, like even that can throw a wrench in, mealtime but having the plan there, having a life by design helps all of that work out better than if there wasn't a plan. So.
Oh, most definitely. It helps. It frees me mentally to be able to be present with my clients when I'm with them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just the mind chatter that happens if, the lists that you make and all that, like my wife makes a ton of mental lists. I just like, I do that. I'm like, hey, how are you? Where are you right now? She's like, oh, I was just making a list. It's like,
Yep.
Where did you go? That's what I ask her. Where did you go? Oh, I was making a list. So good. I love it. Well, listen, if people want to reach out to you, they want more recipes because that tortellini one sounded amazing. Or they want to talk more about meal planning or they want to talk to you about real estate. What's the best way to reach you?
Sure. Well, you can always reach me, of course, through my Facebook page of Embracing Life in Issaquah. Or you can call or text me at 425-395-4573.
Nice.
Started to give out an old number. So 425-395-4573 or at RebeccaCuno.com.
Awesome. Rebecca, thanks for your time today. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Sounds good. And I'll post that tortellini recipe on my website.
Yes, do it. I love it. Okay, good stuff. Thanks. See ya.
Bye.